Hello and welcome to another look, our news and review podcast, where we talk about stories that have been developing across the Shenandoah Valley, or the northern Shenandoah Valley, I should say. I'm Dylan Nicholls, news director here at the River 95.3 Sports Radio 1450. I'm joined by my co-host is kind of a strong word, kind of little miniature
comic relief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good.
Okay,
yeah. We'll go with that. Host of the award-winning Valley Today. Yes. So many awards, the best awards.
I understand you had to use some of my awards on the display at the Worlds of Work, the WOW Expo.
Oh, I don't know what. I don't know what Liz grabbed.
I'm sure it was pretty sad that you didn't have any of your own.
They kind of, I didn't even realize they were awards. They just kind of looked like dirty rocks, I guess.
They were like really cool microphones. How dare you say
sorry. Yeah, apologies. Yeah, but no. Yeah, host of the Valley Today, Janet Michael here, as always, for another look. And we got a lot of stories to talk about. Janet, why don't you go first? What you got?
Let's see. Frederick School Board will soon name new school. So I want to talk about that logic and that process because, they're not going to change the name of Ayler Middle School, I guess. So we're not going to have to deal with that when that new school gets built. But, and then
deal with it, Janet. Isn't it a joy? Isn't it? Doesn't your heart just sing with joy at the prospect of being able to put a new name on a new building? All right, just read your rest of your headline.
Yeah, clearly this.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy. All right, go ahead.
And I want to talk 81 improvements and possible tolls.
Gotta pay the troll toll.
Yeah, because that's just insane. And I know you're all excited because some of your stuff that you've been talking about is finishing. It's like going, what do they call that? In the can.
Yeah. Janet, you know what it is? It's the week of bureaucracy.
Yeah. Well, my list was short because our news director didn't get half of the stories on the website. So I had very small options to, a short list of options to choose from. And
do you know why? Because I was busy doing the Lord's work. I was
yeah.
I was at the Worlds of Work Expo in Winchester at the Sportsplex, teaching kids about the news with a great setup.
Quincy the Quiet Box.
We had a quiet box, which is basically just a Tupperware container.
Rubbermaid. Tupperware is much smaller than what you had. It was a Rubbermaid tub. Rubbermaid-ish tub.
All right.
Rubbermaid did not pay for the sponsor of any.
A plastic tub. And it's just got like a mattress pad cut apart and taped to all sides of it so that it absorbs the sound. And you just put a microphone in there and you extend the cord out of the box through a hole drilled in the back of the box to, in this case, we could connect the mic directly to my laptop. And it was a lot of fun. The kids loved it.
The kids really did seem to like it. We've got a bunch of pictures of them doing it, recording and then listening to themselves on our Facebook page.
Yeah, they're all, in case you don't know the WOW Expo, they're all 7th graders and they're bussed in by the thousands.
Yes.
And
what did Liz say? Final count, 2,650 students.
Something like that.
Over the course of the 2 days.
I think it's definitely between 2,000 and 3,000.
I'm glad I picked Wednesday because that was clearly the lighter day of all the students.
Thursday was. And look, I love these kids. You're
way more generous than I am. I warned you.
Well, at one point I had some kids trying to steal because we have to give them stamps to show that they've been to the exhibit.
They have a passport, so they have to go to each of the different worlds of work, from communications, which is what we were, to health science, to technology, to manufacturing, industrial.
But you don't just get a stamp from Dylan. You don't just get it. You got to ask me some questions about radio, or you got to do a newscast in the quiet box. Otherwise, you ain't getting a stamp. But I made the mistake of leaving the stamp box open and leaving the stamp on it as I was helping some kid with his newscast. And I see just like a little hand reach up, grab the stamp, and start stamping his passport and his friends' passports. And I turn around and go, "What the hell are you doing?" And I took it back from him, but I didn't swear at the kid.
So disappointed that I missed that.
I didn't swear at the kid, but I was trying to think of a word I could call him that would cut him to the bone, and I landed on miscreant. Yes.
Okay, well,
I said, "You miscreants."
Depending on what school he was from, he probably had no idea what that meant.
Throwing the Shade Queen is back. Here we go. But anyways, long story short, because I was at WOW, WOW starts at 9 and we don't get out of there till 1:50, and I had to wake up at 1:30 every single morning. And
you're hearing the violins playing in the background.
I had to get here at 2 or 3 a.m. every single day, 2-3 hours early, just to get all my new stuff done before I went to WOW. So not enough time for the
and
new
you were an
stories
hour
on the
late
website.
to it the first day, so You know.
Late's relative when you've been up since 2 a.m.
But it is. I mean, this was the second year that I had gone there. And it's a great, it shocked me at first that 7th grade is where they're starting to try and get these kids to think about a career path.
Me too.
But apparently they want to do it even earlier.
Yeah.
But 7th seems to be that, magic number where kids are actually realizing what they do or don't have an interest in. So
no, it's true, and you kind of have to plant the seed, which is a big part of it too. Because and they've got it pretty well organized. Communications over here, agro over there,
and the whole thing was cool because the purpose of it wasn't to just have people standing there talking to these kids. Well, here's what you can do. It was to be interactive. So they got to use tools. They got to see how it worked. Valley Health had a whole wall of health sciences, and they got to put needles in the dummies as if they were doing blood draws. They got to see the EKGs and the machines that they wrap around you if you have lung issues, and they got to put those things on. So it really was kind of hands-on. It amazed me the number of kids that thought that the only person that worked at a radio station was a DJ.
No,
there was nobody else
cool.
here, just the guy who talks on the radio.
It's pretty nuts, and it's cool to show them otherwise,
Yeah.
and to show them like a salesperson. This is what the salesperson looks like. This is
Hannah
what the
was having a
manager
blast with
looks
that.
like. Yeah, she had a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a really cool event, and that thing you were talking about where you could actually inject the dummy, it was a great picture. I think it was like the MV Daily. There's a great picture of
who's a fan of mine, by the way, Rich Cooley.
Rich Cooley's a friend of yours?
Yeah, he's a fan.
He
took a picture of our booth, and then when he asked me who the names were, and I gave him Liz's name, and he goes, "And what was your name?" And I said, "Janet Michael." And he, "I love your show." I'm like, "Well, of course you do."
Well, I'm gonna have to fact check that with Rich Cooley, aren't I? But I'm sure if he saw me, Janet, he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, Dylan, I love you and respect your work." Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. But yeah, WOW is over. We don't have to do it again until next year.
Yeah.
And next year we're taking lots more hand sanitizer.
Lots more. But the cool thing, like I was saying with the injection thing, Virginia's Secretary of Education was there, Atif Carney. There was a great photograph of him doing the injection display, and he came to our display too and recorded his own WOW-related newscast, just like the kids were doing. Stuck his head right in that quiet box, started recording away. It was great to meet him. He was a really nice guy, and he was really participating in all the exhibits, seeing what the children were seeing, doing what the children were doing, and getting a great feel for the event, and he really liked it.
He thanked me for bringing you along and said that I was doing a great job getting you up to speed in what a real radio news person should be. So he said you weren't quite there yet, but he was pretty sure that by next year's WOW, you might almost be there.
Yeah, and he told me, he was like, "Who is that lady?" I said, "That's Janet Michael," and he said, "From the Valley Today?" And I was like, "Yeah, you get that in Richmond?" And he's just like, "No, I have to stream
it on the website." Yeah,
he's like, "I have to stream it." I
subscribe to her podcast.
He's like, do not see me if I haven't listened to the Valley Today yet, because I am just a monster until I get that Valley Today in."
Yeah.
So anyways, we're way over time already. But
it's a podcast. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but
unless people are like, you were way over time like 20 minutes ago when you started this WOW conversation.
Yeah, probably. But the stories I want to cover is the principal of Ashby Lee Elementary School, and you might not know this yet because I have not posted some of these on the website. These are secret articles because I didn't have time.
Woo, surprise news.
Yes, surprise news. So the principal of Ashby Lee Elementary has been charged with misdemeanor assault against a juvenile, a student. And the same thing happened to a Shenandoah County Sheriff's Office deputy who was terminated in August after the incident happened in mid-August.
At the same school? So what are these
it was the
gang
same
up
student.
on the same kid?
We don't know the details. Everything's very hush-hush. We're going to know more around November 8th, I think. So
after the midterms.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme of all these stories.
Right?
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Frederick Water, Stephen City, shaking hands, kissing and making up. Very exciting stuff there. That's a long-running dispute that we've covered here for a long time. And speaking of long-time news, Shentel is now submitting back its report that was mandated by the Winchester City Council, which has been going back and forth on whether or not they should put a cell tower in Chimpernet Park. And they basically said to Shentel, you got 30 days to prove this is the only site. Well, Shentel sent in its report, and we'll talk about whether or not they proved it.
Okay.
So we got a lot of stuff.
That's a story that hasn't been going on for a long time, but it seems like we've been talking about it forever.
It feels like a long time to me.
I know, right?
It feels like it's got to be at least a few months of this thing. But it just...
Not as long as the Frederick water dispute. That was, years?
or Winchester Towers, for that matter. All these different things.
Yes.
Yeah. Crazy stuff going on. So we're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to have some dumb national news stories for you later on.
I am international.
International. That's right. You went to...
Belgium.
Belgium. So a lot to look forward to here. We're going to Belgium on another look when we come back after the break.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
Hello, it's Janet again. In addition to producing podcasts for the River 953 and our clients, I also host a show every weekday on the air from 12:30 to 1 called The Valley Today. It's a community conversation where I chat with local business owners, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents about what's happening up and down the Shenandoah Valley. You can hear the show live each day on the radio, you can listen live from our website, or you can listen to the podcast of the show each afternoon on our website at theriver953.com from the Valley Today page. You can even subscribe to the podcast in the Apple Podcast app or the Google Play Music Store and have it delivered directly to your phone once it's published. So join me for a conversation this week. And if you're interested in being a guest or advertising in that podcast, send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. And now, back to the podcast.
And we're back with some more Another Look. I'm thinking that as we start covering these stories here, I think Janet should go first with her stories from the northern Shenandoah Valley. What do you got?
Frederick County School Board will soon name new school.
Now, what is your objection? You always have either an objection or you're annoyed by just the strangest, most benign. Last time it was Middletown got a $3,000 grant to help with traffic patrols, and you complained about that.
And there's still traffic.
Of course there's still traffic. The traffic was supposed to disappear. You don't just throw $3,000 in the middle of the road and there's no more traffic. All right, what's your objection to this, naming this 12th elementary school?
No objection, really. I mean, I just always find it interesting when it comes time to name a new school.
Yeah, so read the criteria there. You got it, right?
So it says it's the 12th elementary school. They had 50 names for the school, have all been submitted for consideration, some coming from community residents, while others were suggested by a school naming committee comprised of students, parents, school division staff, and community leaders. Citizens were asked to follow a general criteria and select names that either reflect the geography and features of the area or otherwise acknowledge leaders who have made contributions to education.
Now, I think in my article I picked about 5 of the names that I'd read in different reports.
Yes. Candidates include Apple Blossom. So stupid. Patsy
Why is
Cline.
that stupid?
Limestone. Not bad. Snowden Springs. Okay. And Willa Cather. I'm just not a fan of naming schools after people, period.
You don't like naming
Unless
schools?
it's me. Now, Stonewall Elementary wants to rebrand themselves as the Janet B. Michael School of Elementary. Elementary education. Then I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. No, what a nightmare that would be, though.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems I would prefer that they name the schools. I like the idea of the geography or some unique historical aspect.
Yeah, I like that idea, too. I honestly think geography is the coolest one because it makes the school feel like the school, It's the same as the mascot when it's an actual animal that's from around the area. It makes it feel like this could only be here.
Yeah.
That this name and this school are so in tune with the Shenandoah Valley in this area. I'm surprised you went with the limestone.
Limestone's not because that's everywhere.
Yeah, but imagine those uniforms. That just sounds really ugly.
That's true. But Snowden Springs is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like Snowden Springs.
Apple Blossom, quite frankly, I can't imagine that's going to make it because anybody who has lived in Winchester, Frederick County their entire lives, like I have, Apple Blossom is such a pain.
Yeah.
So it does not bring wonderful memories. And it's just a stupid name for a school. I mean, it was a pretty stupid name for a mall. But it's still the Apple Blossom Mall.
Yeah, I guess for a school it is kind of I'm thinking back to my school and what I would like to name things. I don't know. Yeah. I think you're right. I think geographic feature is kind of the best way to go.
Yeah, I just think it just makes more sense. I mean, Patsy Cline, yes, she's a historical figure, but In another 100 years?
Well, all right. So you have to name the school. You prefer some sort of geographic or ecosystem feature or whatever it is. So yeah, what do you pick for the name?
I don't know. I don't even know where it's going.
Well, Jenna,
Where's
come on, spitball here. Wait, let's do a brainstorm.
How about Frederick County Elementary School?
We got a bunch of Frederick County. Well, we got Frederick County Middle and come on.
There should be an elementary school.
Come on, get creative.
It is 4:00 on a Friday afternoon. My creativity flew the coop 2.5 hours ago, sitting in the drive-thru at McDonald's for an hour and a half just to get a mocha.
I got one. Possum Elementary. Look at that.
Possum Holler.
Possum Holler. Possum Holler Elementary. Welcome.
I like Snowden Springs. I don't know what their mascot would be.
Maybe just Snowden. That's kind of nice. Snowden Elementary. I like that.
Could be a snowman. That could be their...
Oh, now it just got lame. The snowman is... the snowman charging down the field. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but what would the mascot be for Limestone?
Oh, rock.
A hammer? A jackhammer?
What'd you call the hammer? Hammy? It's so dumb.
Yeah.
I can't believe we burned like 3 minutes on that. All right, what else you got?
Okay, let's talk about 81.
Serious news.
So, 81.
Yeah.
Are they going to fix it or are they not going to fix it? Because from what I'm reading of these stories that you put up, they're not. They're going to fix it, but their fixes ain't going to be what everybody wants.
So they released this plan. It was funny because they released the plan on I believe it was Friday, and then on Monday or Tuesday, the Frederick County reacted to the plan. And it was funny to read those two articles almost back to back because basically the plan itself, they identify over 100 projects that they would really like to do and that they really want to do. But on their $2 billion budget, all they can really do is like 72 of the projects.
Yes.
And that is really constraining them. And of those 72, 24 of them are based in the VDOT Stanton district. That contains the Winchester region. So the real issue here is that the Frederick County wants a big improvement on I-81 from exit 313 to 317. They'd like to see road widening and the installation of some auxiliary lanes from the exits 313 to 317. But those aren't included in this first round plan that can get done in the next few years if they just do the $2 billion 72 project version, which is they're saying that's all we can do right now. But don't worry, Janet, because they can get to the rest of it by 2060. They hope.
Yeah, well, they're not going to need it in 2060 because we're all going to be flying around in Jetson cars.
Well, and that's exactly, in so many words, Assistant County Planning Director.
There are going to be scooter paths everywhere. We're all just going to be on scooters.
Honestly, Assistant County Planning Director John Bishop basically said that in so many words. He said that by the time Frederick County gets these additions funded, transportation needs may drastically change, and he's right. We're on the verge of self-driving cars at this point.
Yeah.
It's just... everything's changing. 2060, 40 years from now, why bother planning anything 40 years from now?
They will have long since taken my license away from me 40 years from now. I hope.
That's true. You don't have to worry about anything.
I really do not want to still be driving.
You don't have to worry about anything. You're in the clear. Yeah. You're going to have some sort of futuristic driving Miss Daisy situation with a robot in the front seat.
Exactly what's going to happen.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So, there are worries there, and all they can really do, it looks like, is basically just draft a resolution for Board of Supervisors approval that they can send to the Commonwealth Transportation Board and say, we really need these 81 improvements.
Well, I'm looking because it says, you're right. So there were 105 projects total for all of 81.
Right.
And that doesn't just include us, obviously. That's throughout the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
And then they were going to get 72 of them funded under the $2 billion budget. Of those 72, 24 are actually in the Stanton district. And of that budget, $886 million. So it just kind of gets chipped away. And I can't imagine. Maybe there are parts of 81 outside of our area that have high levels of accidents, that have the nightmare traffic snarls. But you'd think that's where they would put the bulk of their money, because I know what the exit is like when they're talking 313 to 317.
It's tough because 81 is just such a heavily used road that there really is no telling where the worst parts are. I've gone onto 81 on exits that are way too short down south, down closer to like 64, where I've tried to get back on the 81 and was like, I had no time at all. I actually had to brake and wait for an opening because there just was no exit. So there are issues like that they need to address. But in terms of wear and tear, I guess, first of all, and in terms of actual congestion, you wouldn't think it'd be much wider anywhere but Winchester and probably Harrisonburg are the two big ones on 81.
in the big cities. Now, I don't have a problem because they mentioned in one of these to pay for the improvements, the proposal suggests tolling trucks on 80 on somewhere under 17 cents a mile and other vehicles 1 to 2/3 of that amount. First of all, I ain't paying no toll. In discussion, I'm not paying a toll. I don't pay a toll when I go to the city. I'm not paying a toll to live in my own town. Second of all, I got no problem with trucks paying a toll.
Yeah.
I think they should put in a whole lane. And I've said this for years. The trucks need their own lane. They just need to have their own lane designated for the trucks, whether they got to pay a toll to be on it or not. But they should be required to be in that lane. So the rest of the lanes
like an HOV
are
lane
for those of us that are, not trucks.
But an HOV lane all the way down 81 just for trucks?
Yeah.
An entire additional lane all the way down. You know how many billions of dollars that is, Janet?
Do you know how many billions of dollars the trucking industry makes every year?
Well, that's the other thing, too, to consider. How much commerce are we getting just from trucks using 81 as much as they do just to get north and south?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some added commerce there.
A lot of that stuff doesn't come for nothing. I mean, we've got the Virginia Inland Port here. A lot of the improvements that get made to the inland port are made by the companies that are shipping in those containers that are coming off the railways. That kind of stuff gets paid for by the companies who want them, need them, and use them. So, put little, laundromats have. Make them have to put little quarters or something in their trucks before they can get on the road or before they... I lost that train of thought as soon as it started rolling out of my mouth.
I would love to see the world run by Janet Michael.
I tell you, it would be so smooth, and people would know exactly what to do, when to do it,
so smooth.
And
first of all,
why they're doing it.
I know for a fact there would be no bridges. So you would basically
and
just have
tunnels.
roads that follow the river all the way down until there's a natural
no
land.
bridges, no tunnels. Yeah.
No. How do you get over or under
because
anything?
we saw on the news the other night this crazy Elon Musk is doing this super tube of death tunnel thing to get you from New York City to somewhere in like 20 minutes. And no.
What the hell are you talking about?
Elon
He's
Musk
doing like
it's like an underground, and it's almost done. And you can go into it's going to be like a pod, and you can get into these like subway cars that'll fit like up to 16 people, and it will supersonic you to like New York in 20 minutes.
From where?
I never wanted to go anywhere that bad.
Wait, New York to where?
I think DC. Okay, you keep talking and I'll Google it.
No, that sounds pretty. That sounds pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean,
I would do that.
No, do you know how many hundreds of miles they are under earthquakes? You are dead. What happens if somebody releases some sort of gas?
Oh,
you're dead. And then they're even going to have them where you can put your car on them, like ferries that take you across the water. You can put your car on it, and it's supersonics. Yeah, until your windshield blows out and your car window mirrors start flying through the air. No, we're all going to die.
I don't know.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and I think it's ridiculous, and nobody should do it.
I think Elon Musk is a genius.
I think he's a nut job. He's just a rich nut job, so he can do whatever he wants.
I would love to be a rich nut job, man.
All right, I'm Googling Elon Musk tunnel.
You can't Google during the podcast. It takes forever.
That's the Onion, so that's not really true. Oh, it's in L.A. That's what it is. Elon Musk says the Boring Company's first tunnel under L.A. will open December 10th. So it's in L.A.
L.A. to what,
the rapid transit tunnel that Elon Musk's Boring Company is digging beneath L.A. will open on December 10th, and free rides, of course they better be free, will be offered to the public the following night. The 2-mile test tunnel underneath SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California, is a proof of concept for an underground public transportation system which aims to transport passengers and vehicles beneath congested roadways on autonomously driven electric platforms
so he made the sample.
Called skates.
That's not very... Yeah, he needs a different name.
The skates will theoretically transport 8 to 16 passengers or one passenger vehicle along magnetic rails at speeds of up to 155 miles per hour.
You can go 155 miles per hour on skates? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the supersonic Segway.
So, but yeah, this says he hopes to connect. This is where I got that from. Last year, Musk said he hopes to connect New York City to Washington, D.C. via an underground hyperloop and has received tacit approval for the project from the Trump administration. Of course he has. Of course, transportation experts question whether tunnels are really an answer to the quandary of traffic congestion and overcapacity, in addition to questioning Musk's claims that he can dig tunnels faster and at a fraction of the cost of traditional boring technology.
I like how like that claim makes him sound like a mole. I can dig tunnels faster than anyone. Like it just a little.
It just needs to get the little who was the little thing in the Caddyshack movie? The gopher? The gopher, man.
Yeah.
That dude could dig some holes in a hurry.
So you would be for the supersonic hyperloop if the gopher from Caddyshack was the project head.
Yeah, because he's got experience.
Elon Musk just piddles with rockets.
Yes.
The gopher. All right, what else do you have? Do you have another story?
That was it. That's your whole story? Yeah, because there wasn't anything on the website for me to pull, so that was all I had.
I'll let you deal with the 7th graders next time. Oh, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I am going to talk about my stories. I'm going to talk about this Shentel cell tower and how they responded to Jim Barnett's request for more site information. We're going to talk about the Frederick Water dispute and how it came to an end. And we're going to talk about this Ashby Lee Elementary principal who is on leave and is also charged with assault of a student. Incredible stuff.
Hello, it's Janet again. In addition to producing podcasts for the River 953 and our clients, I also host a show every weekday on the air from 12:30 till 1 called The Valley Today. It's a community conversation where I chat with local business owners, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents about what's happening up and down the Shenandoah Valley. You can hear the show live each day on the radio, you can listen live from our website, or you can listen to the podcast of the show each afternoon on our website at theriver953.com from the Valley Today page. You can even subscribe to the podcast in the Apple Podcast app or the Google Play Music Store and have it delivered directly to your phone once it's published. So join me for a conversation this week. And if you're interested in being a guest or advertising in that podcast, send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. And now, back to the podcast.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And welcome back to some more Another Look, our news and review podcast. We're talking about news from across the northern Shenandoah Valley. It's now my turn, and boy, do I have some whoppers. I hid from the website all the good news stories. And we're going to get into it. This is actually a very bad news story I want to start with because you didn't hear about this, I guess.
All I hear is what you've said the last couple of times about the headlines.
Yeah, so I'll just go right on and say it. Ashby Lee Elementary's principal was put on leave. Principal Stephen Pavlish III. He was put on leave because now he has charges against him of assault and battery of a student. And it's not just any student. Basically, there's very little information available on this. All we know is that Stephen Pavlish and a Shenandoah County Sheriff's Office deputy, Tabitha R. Baker Whitaker, both received the misdemeanor charges of assault and battery. It seems like they were against the same elementary school student, who presumably would be from Ashby Lee Elementary. The incident occurred in mid-August, and on August 20th, the incident occurred on the 16th or the 17th. It's different in the filings for both of them for the summons. On August 20th, Tabitha R. Baker Whitaker was actually relieved of duty. She was terminated. And so there's a lot of mystery surrounding this thing.
But this is an elementary school. This isn't a middle school. This isn't a high school. They're not dealing with some out-of-control teenager. Elementary school is 5th grade at the oldest.
It gets worse because there were very few details. But the summons filed in both Baker Whitaker's case and Pavlish's has very little information. It indicates only that they are charged for the assault and battery of a 5-year-old juvenile. Because it's... I don't know what that means. I don't know if they yanked his arm because he was misbehaving.
And that could be, because I had...
Are you about to endorse child abuse?
No.
What's about to happen here? You did this weird smile.
I had one of the teachers from Josh's preschool arrested.
What?
For assault and battery because she smacked him with her purse. And I
How
had
hard?
her arrested, and it didn't matter how hard. I had her arrested, and I had her removed from her position.
Was it a playful like?
No,
smack?
she was mad at she. Okay, okay. So here's where it gets.
Oh,
she was dating
man.
his father.
Okay.
His dad and I were almost practically divorced. We've been separated for years.
Oh, Janet.
She was a
wait, is this a
teacher
podcast story?
Yeah, she was a teacher
Okay.
at the daycare. Josh was 4. He wasn't in actual school yet, so this was preschool, and he was a moody little child. He still is a moody little child.
Yeah.
When they would go to bathroom breaks, the rule was they go into the bathroom, and then after they come out, they sit on the opposite wall. So they sit on one wall waiting for their turn to go into the bathroom. When they come out, they sit on the opposite wall so
Yeah.
the teachers know who's done what. So he's sitting on the opposite wall, having gone to the bathroom, sitting on the floor with his knees in the air.
Yeah.
She walks by and says good morning to him, and he ignores her because he's 4.
Yeah.
She walks over to him, starts talking to him, and he doesn't answer her. She takes her purse off of her shoulder and smacks him on the side of the legs where his legs are up in the air and says, "You better say good morning to me." And he just looks at her. So she smacks him again.
Whoa.
His teacher then called me and told me this happened. And less than 30 seconds later, I am in that principal's office. And I will point out that it was a church, and I am going to hell for the language that I used in that church that day. I had her arrested. She was taken out of the school.
Wow.
And it was
Did
she was
they
charged with assault and battery and it didn't matter that she didn't, I was just joking. My purse fell off my shoulder. Well, the teacher said, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
Twice.
No, obviously, the teacher contacted you. The teacher was concerned about the
Yes.
whole incident and wanted to get out ahead of it.
But that
was
was assault and battery, and she was removed, and she did not work there anymore.
When the kids are this young, it can take like many forms.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what. I mean, I don't know. That's really interesting. Did they perp walk her out of there?
Yeah. I assume
Like,
they
in
came and
cuffs?
got her, and she had to come to the office, and they took her right on out of the Well,
Let me
they
ask
go
you
to a
this, because
class
I know
in
I know how I would have done it. I would have, after I knew she was successfully going to get arrested, I would have gone to the front entrance of the school. I would have parked my car sort of close to the front entrance where anyone coming out of it could obviously see me. I would have lit a cigarette. And then, right as she's walking out the doors, I would have just sat there moodily smoking with a smile on my face, then flicked it onto the ground. Got in my car and drove away for her to see.
No, I was in the office. I mean, I called I walked outside. I called the police department. I said, I want to press charges. This is what happened. They sent an officer out to the school. The officer went and spoke to the teacher who saw what happened. The officer talked to the principal and said, how are you going to handle it internally? She said, our actions for handling it internally will depend on what your actions are. And he said, there is enough here. He looked at me and he said, ma'am, do you intend to press charges? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he said, I need you to go remove her from the classroom and bring her here, please. And they brought her to the office, and he explained to her that she was being charged with assault and battery, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, come on.
Okay,
Come on,
now I need
Bring
more
it.
details. How did she plead when she got in court?
She pled not guilty.
And did she get off?
She got a fine.
A fine.
Yeah.
Did you want jail
And
time?
probation. And she wasn't allowed to be anywhere near my child.
Yeah, I mean, did she lose her license?
I don't know. She wasn't driving. Why would she lose her license?
No, like her license to teach.
Oh, it was a daycare, please. It was a glorified daycare. She didn't have no license.
Okay, I didn't know. You said he's a teacher.
Yeah,
I thought
she
it was.
wasn't. Yeah. I mean, it was touch and go there for a few minutes because when she and I are in the office together with the officer between us, and she's trying to tell the officer that the purse just slipped off her shoulders, and
She
I
really
happen to
said
have
that.
my purse on my shoulders, and I said, really? You want to see what a purse looks like when it slips off your shoulders? And I let mine slip off. And I said, or do you want to see what a purse looks like when I beat the shit out of you with it? And that's when the officer was like, ma'am, I'm going to need you to go in the next room. I was livid. I mean, you're not touching my
No,
kid. You
yeah.
are not touching my kid.
No, you don't mess with the mom.
But yeah, so I can imagine these parents
Wow.
have got to be. So is this principal, when you say he's on leave, is it paid leave? Because that's the other thing that annoys the crap out of me.
Well, I don't know, Janet. I know what I know.
Because I don't think any of these police officers or anything, when they are under investigation for something like this, there should be no such thing as paid leave.
Yeah.
There should be unpaid leave, and then if it turns out that the investigation proves that you were in the right, then you can get reimbursed for the money that you didn't get paid while you were off. But you should not be getting paid while you're being investigated.
Well, what if you are falsely accused, though, and they have to do this, and then as a result, I mean, because you're going to be paying fines anyways at the end of this if it's not The goal is to just get you out of the building while they investigate whether you sold. So I don't know. I don't think paid leave's until anything's proven is out of the question, because they're going to fire him if it's a really bad situation. They are going to fire him anyways, and he'll have a ton of fines to pay, if not at jail sentence, depending upon the severity of the incident. So it'll be really interesting to see how that turns out.
Well, and I'm curious as to how many details and what will ultimately come out, because the child was only 5 years old.
Yeah.
At some point, the parent's going to say something. At some point, the parent is going to, depending on how this all shakes out, if the parent is happy with how this ultimately gets handled, you may not hear another word. If the parent isn't, then she's going to be on, DC News tomorrow saying, hey.
It'll depend on how many details are released too in the coming days. So Baker Whitaker turned herself into the authorities. She was the deputy on this is Friday, last Friday, and this Monday that just passed, he turned himself in, the principal. In his absence, Tiffany Utz will be filling in as Ashby Lee Elementary's principal, and both the former principal, I guess, I don't know if you can call him that yet, and Baker Whitaker are going to appear in court on November 8th. So very soon.
Yeah, after the midterms.
As is
That's
true
how
for
our whole life is defined now.
So we're all right. So we spent a lot of time on that because there was some hot gossip going on.
and how did I know? I didn't even know you had the story, so it's not like I had that prepared.
You know how I got that story? I had my car parked in front of the entrance, and I was just sort of smoking a cigarette, watching as they got walked out of the school. Oh man! All right,
next.
All right. So this is the actual big story, but we're going to spend less time on this one because I don't care. That was worth it. Basically, Frederick Water and Stephen City have been in a dispute for a long time. I'm not going to rehash the whole dispute because we've done it over the course of like 3 episodes. We've explained this over and over and over again. All I'm going to tell you is that it was a contract made in 1992 that allowed Frederick Water to draw water free of charge from 3 Stephen City-owned quarries. That contract was a 20-year contract that expired in 2012. Since its expiration, Frederick Water has been disputing with Stephen City whether or not there's actually something in perpetuity that allows them in the contract to continue to draw the water. They've been fighting back and forth. This whole thing has climaxed in lawsuits of $10 million and a countersuit of $5.78 million. And at one point, Frederick Water was threatening to shut off the town's water.
There were letters to the governor, tattletale letters to the governor.
Yes, craziness has been going on. But now, over the course of 2 miracle mediation sessions, apparently. Yeah, I don't know if they got Judge Judy in there or what happened. No, they actually got a former Virginia Supreme Court justice. Or a current. I don't know if it's a former.
Is that before your time? Do you know who Judge Wapner is?
So anyways.
You don't know who he is the original judge of the People's Court. That was the very first court show ever. That's what allowed Judge Judy.
No one cares.
Oh my God, you're so young. You're such a child.
So anyways.
Take my purse off my shoulder and smack you out.
She hit me. So anyways, after those mediation sessions, they've reached an agreement. The terms of those agreements, since Stephen City's town council looked over them and agreed to them, have now been released. Now, here's what Stephen City is going to do. They're going to convey the land containing those 3 quarries Frederick Water's been pumping water out of to Frederick Water, and also give them the right to use the Bartonsville well, whatever that is. I guess that was also something that was under dispute over the time.
Probably how they actually get the water out of the quarries is the well. They pump it out through
the well. It could be. And so, and they also are obligated to spend no less than $1 million repairing existing inflow and infiltration issues with their wastewater system. Okay. That's on the town. In exchange, they will get a discounted water rate from Frederick Water of $1 per 1,000 gallons of water for the first 250,000 gallons they use each day. And then after that, they will get a 33% discount on the company's lowest rate on that water after they've reached that 250,000 gallon limit up to a limit of 350,000 gallons.
So they get that discount on that 100,000 gallons.
Yes, exactly. And then for wastewater services, they will only get the 33% discount on the lowest rate for wastewater services, and that's for up to 250,000 gallons per day. And the town will actually lose that benefit immediately if they exceed that daily limit on a regular basis. Oh. I guess wastewater is more precious than water.
It is. Well,
yes.
You pay twice as much for it, 3 times as much in some cases. You get your water bill for both, and the sewer is always 3 times the cost of the water, which annoys me. Because what if I'm just putting water in tubs and taking it somewhere else and disposing of it? I shouldn't have to pay the sewer on, I'm just saying it's ridiculous.
So that's what's going on there. I think we're just all relieved for the people of Stevens City, because that would have been awful for the water to be shut off, and that would have drawn a lot of negative attention for the state of Virginia. And the mediator that they got for this whole thing was a Virginia Supreme Court justice. I'm not sure if it was former or current Supreme Court justice, but that tells me that I think the letter of the governor and the attention they've been drawing on in the state offices, it's kind of worked in a way, mainly because they just don't want the CNN trucks coming to the new Flints. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to deal with this whole issue.
So start locking your cars, Stevens City residents. Your water is staying on.
Woo! So we can celebrate about that. And the only other thing is Chantel is...
Now they can call people and tell them about it, because they'll have better cell service.
And now they'll have better cell service, perhaps. This is still not resolved, but it's kind of resolved. It's not resolved at all. Shentel Telecommunications Company, based in Edinburgh, has been in talks for a while now to try and get a cell tower built in Jim Barnett Park next to the Lester P. Sinhaus BMX track. They've been trying, and they've reached a lot of resistance. It started when the Winchester Parks and Recreation Department would not give their recommendation to put the cell tower in Jim Barnett Park. And when the Winchester City Council ignored their recommendation and allowed Chantel to apply for a conditional use permit to do that, didn't give it to them, but allowed them to apply, the head of Parks and Rec at the time, John Bentley, quit. And basically said, if you're not going to accept our recommendation, I don't see the point.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, not head of Parks and Rec, but the Parks and Rec
board.
Advisory Board. So now we're in the situation where there's a lot of pressure on the Winchester City Council. They've decided to delay this matter of whether or not Chantel should actually be able to put a cell tower there. And what they said a little while ago was they basically, on October 9th, they basically said, we're going to give Chantel you 30 days to prove that this proposed site is the only viable location, the only viable space that you can put this project.
Can't put it anywhere else.
And you need to give us a site report on this, and you need to tell us about your search, and you need to tell us why you drew this conclusion.
Because at one point, Winchester Country Club says, wait, we've got a place.
Yeah.
If you're going to actually write a check, we'll take your money, and you can put your tower over here. And that's when they're like, okay, now wait a minute. If there is another site, why have we been... So I guess they checked that site out.
It seemed like that.
Yeah.
It sure seemed like that. So the report came in. And Chantel basically said, and I won't get into all the hairy details here, but they said, look, we looked on the campus of Daniel Morgan Middle School. We looked at locations near Jones Funeral Home and Chantel Stadium. Hornets, go Hornets. And we looked at 4 different sites at the Winchester Country Club.
Which is up on a hill. So you'd think they would be good sites.
Well, all of those locations, they either did not meet the company's coverage needs, which aren't necessarily just elevation. It is also just...
What's line of sight?
And also like coordinates too, like where it actually specifically is located. And also they either did not meet those coverage needs, or they just didn't meet like local government standards, of which there are many to worry about. The Jim Burnett Park site, however, they described it as really, really good.
Premium. Did they really say really, really good in that report?
They did. I wrote that. Jim Burnett site as really, really good. Let's say they didn't. But they said that it meets 100% of the Chantel service requirements. It complies with all zoning requirements. It enjoys significant tree buffering. Gotta have that tree buffering. Is surrounded by similarly sized light poles and utility poles. I mean, this tower is going to be 100 feet monopole tower, so I don't know. And I don't know what similar means. And leverages existing access roads. It's a great site for the tower. I think the big objection is putting a cell tower in a park like this. They have talked about in the past, though, putting lights on it for the BMX track. So the park could at least get some benefit
something out of it. Yeah.
So that might happen. But Winchester City Council is now... basically, it's now on them to decide, but they don't have to decide now until November 13th because of the delay that this report created. Well, so there's been some talk about that. Winchester City Council denies anything that this had anything to do with the midterms being on November 6th. Because
they have an election. There's council elections coming up. Yeah. They
do. And so... I don't know. But we'll see what happens there. Chantel's report... really, you should take a look at the details of the report if you can, because it was very detailed and it was interesting stuff and it was compelling. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But as with almost everything, we're still waiting.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm a little, and it's one of those. It's a catch-22 because I'm a little concerned that now the Stephen City water issue has been resolved. It seems that Ayler Middle School is going to get built, maybe not to the full size that they want, but that news story has pretty much resolved itself. We're talking about Chantel may now finally be coming to an end. Is this going to be the end of our podcast? We're not going to have any more news to talk about.
There's going to be nothing.
Is there going to be is there going to be new stuff?
We're going to have to lurk outside schools waiting for an assault.
Yeah,
I swear.
That's not what I'm going to do.
You're not going to spend your days doing it? Nah, neither am I. I got a better beat than that.
Yeah. No. Well, and we have 2,650 seventh graders that we can look forward to creating news stories in the future.
I know, yeah. All the wow kids in the world. We've got all those. So we're about done with that segment. All that's left now is
Yeah.
dumb news.
Mine is stupid criminals.
Stupid criminals.
Yeah.
I've got kind of just a belligerent nuts criminal. I don't know how to describe this, and I think I find this story, just because of the phrasing of it and the weird image I have in my mind, I find this story funnier than it really is. It's actually an awful story. So we've got that to look forward to. And Janet's is international. Would you say Belgium?
Belgium.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
Hello, it's Janet again. In addition to producing podcasts for the River 953 and our clients, I also host a show every weekday on the air from 12:30 till 1 called The Valley Today. It's a community conversation where I chat with local business owners, nonprofits, government agencies, and residents about what's happening up and down the Shenandoah Valley. You can hear the show live each day on the radio, you can listen live from our website, or you can listen to the podcast of the show each afternoon on our website at theriver953.com from the Valley Today page. You can even subscribe to the podcast in the Apple Podcast app or the Google Play Music Store and have it delivered directly to your phone once it's published. So join me for a conversation this week. And if you're interested in being a guest or advertising in that podcast, send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. And now, back to the podcast.
All right, welcome back to some more Another Look. Now, before we get into our dumb news stories, we're going to talk about something very important that's happening very soon that you should be a part of. The midterms, November 6th. And not only should you get out and vote, but after you've gotten out and voted, you need to sit around your house, turn off all the lights, turn on the radio, and listen to our election coverage. And no other stimulus.
Yeah.
No
all
other
you have
stimulus.
to do is say, Alexa, play the River 953 on TuneIn.
And then, if you have the TuneIn app, you will be able to listen to our live election coverage from 7 to 10 p.m. We're going to talk about the local elections that matter to you if you're listening to this podcast.
Well, they matter to me. I don't know if they're going to matter to everybody.
Well, we've got Page County, we've got Frederick County, we got Warren County, and we've also got the Winchester, and these are city council elections, these are mayoral elections, and on top of that, we've got the 6th and 10th district congressional elections in the 6th district. We have Ben Klein and Jennifer Lewis. In the 10th district. In the 10th district, we got Wexton. And, oh man, if you've been watching these commercials like I have, you just got Wexton. Yeah. And then Barbara Comstock, more like Barbara Trumpstock. These commercials are obnoxious. Yeah. So we've been dealing with that all this time, and now you finally get to see who the big winner is, and we're going to be guiding you through it.
Or the big loser, because ultimately, just because you win the election may not necessarily mean you've won some sort of prize.
We should call our election coverage the biggest loser.
I know, right?
And we'll incorporate a scale somehow.
America's the biggest loser.
So we're going to see how all that goes and how all that shakes out. And you're going to want to listen to us if you really want the local election results, because you can watch the TV, but they're going to be focusing on the high-profile races. 10th District's kind of a high-profile race, but, there's a lot of other races going on just in Virginia, not to mention across the United States.
Yeah. Well, the senator's race, Tim Kaine.
There's the Tim Kaine senator's race, and that's statewide, and that's mainly when people talk about Virginia on the national news, that's what they're going to be talking about. Even on your D.C. news, that's what they're going to be talking about. And beyond that, there's a bunch of governor's races to worry about and stuff like that. So if you really want the local stuff, you got to
Elections are local. So if you want to make sure that your schools are funded, if you want to make sure cell towers do not go up in your parks, if you want to make sure that you have water supply in your town, then you got to stay on a local level and know who's running, know what they stand for, and get out and vote.
Not to mention, look at the Republican candidate for Senate right now. What's his governmental experience right now going into the Senate election? I believe it's Prince William County Supervisor.
Mm-hmm. And then he missed the meeting on opioid crisis because he went to Alabama.
Well, my point is not to smear Corey Stewart. My point.
It's not a smear when it's true.
No, all right. My point. I'm not trying. I don't have an agenda when I say
yes,
that.
there was a local guy on just another board of supervisors. Now, right in Prince William County, it's a pretty large county.
No, it's a large county,
but, now
but that's
he's
the
running
point,
for Senate.
right? Is that's how it starts. So you wonder how a guy gets to be in the president's race. It's because he was in the Senate. You wonder how he gets to be in the Senate. Sometimes, it could be congressional experience. It could be that they're a state senator, and from a state senator, they actually had their roots to get to be a state senator by being in local governmental office, whether it's a city council, a town council, or a board of supervisors. This is how it happens. They walk up every run of the ladder, or they're just an entrepreneur that just runs for president because they have the money.
Yeah, or they have good hair.
Yeah, great hair. So, all that aside, election coverage, 7 to 10, November 6th, the River 95.3. You know what channel that is on the radio, Janet? It's tricky.
95.3.
Yes. On the FM.
And you can listen on our website. You can go to theriver953.com, click the Listen Live button.
Yeah.
If you have the TuneIn app on your phone, you can listen that way. You don't have to have the TuneIn app on Alexa. All you have to do is tell her that's where you want to find it, and she will magically
You
bring
assume
it to you.
everyone has Alexa. Not everyone's as rich as you, Janet. Not everyone hosts like an award-winning
Prime Day,
show.
man. It was cheap.
Not everyone hosts an award-winning show. It's just breaking in the bucks, man. All right.
Yeah.
What's your news story?
Okay. Are you ready? So
Yeah.
meanwhile, in Belgium.
Yours is almost certainly better than mine. I'm going to give you this one right off the bat.
So my headline. Robbers arrested after store owner tells them to come back later.
Wow.
A group of would-be thieves were prevented from robbing a store in Belgium on Saturday after the owner said he didn't have enough money in the cash register and asked them to come back later.
This sounds like a Canada story.
I know
like
it does,
like a bunch of
doesn't it?
really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, guys, just like, oh, okay, we'll come back then.
The owner runs an e-cigarette shop. Why are they always getting robbed? Anyway, the owner runs an e-cigarette shop on the outskirts of the Belgian city Charleroi.
Do they not call it vape in Belgium?
I guess not. He said 6 armed individuals
6?
walked into his store in the middle of the afternoon demanding money.
Wow.
In an attempt to defuse the situation, he told them to come back at the end of the day when the till had more cash in it.
Wow.
I told them clearly that 3 p.m. is not the best time to hold up a store. You'll take $1,000, but if you come back tonight, you might be able to take more. Incredulously, the group left. The owner then phoned the police and let them know. He said they weren't the brightest, adding that the police didn't think they would return. But at 5:30 p.m., the group did return. The store owner once again called their bluff and told the group it was still not closing time. I berated them, saying, "You have to buy a watch." I said, "It's 5:30, not 6:30," and they left.
That is great.
When the group returned for a third time, plainclothes policemen were waiting to apprehend them. 5 people were arrested, including a minor, according to local media. The 6th alleged offender ran away.
Okay, you know how he did it? These are probably like young 20s, late teens kind of guys, and he yelled at them. Like that's all it was. Like he was an authority figure, and he just said like, "What are you doing? This is not how you rob a store. This is how you rob a store. Come back later when you learn how to rob a store." And he just shamed them.
Buy a watch.
Yeah.
Take the money you're going to steal
That's
from me in an hour and go buy a watch. Get you an Apple Watch.
Yeah, it's exactly what they did. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's a smart guy.
3 times he made them come back to the store.
We could all learn a lesson.
Yeah.
Just conduct yourself with confidence in life.
Yeah.
And you can get through it.
Yeah.
And just berate people and badger people, too.
Yeah. Thank you, Sally Michaels.
Well done, Sally
Who
Michaels.
in the middle of WOW was sending me dumb news stories.
Yeah. I love it. All right, I got a story for you, and for the first time ever, I'm actually just gonna read the headline for you. You ready?
What? I don't get any of the. Well, Janet, what I have here?
No, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it.
Okay.
Police say man punched and shoved teen girls dressed as zombies promoting a dance production. I swear to God. No, this is not supposed to be a funny story.
No, but he was afraid.
These
zombies are real.
These in Park City, America. I don't know what state this is in. 5 teen girls dressed as zombies were promoting Odyssey Dance Theater's annual production of Thriller by scaring pedestrians on Main Street. Then comes Drew Stephen Hyde. He's walking down the street. This happened September 22nd, too, so they were a little early for Halloween. But it just
which gives him a little more credibility.
Yeah, it just got reported on October 21st. But the girls were between the ages of 13 and 16. And Hyde started to walk by with his family. And as he's walking by with his family, he looks over at them and is visibly disturbed and shaken. And he told a 14-year-old girl, "If you touch my daughter, I will punch you." He literally says this. The quotes in this story are amazing, according to the report. And then, according to the report, he then punched her on the left side of the face. It's unclear whether or not they touched his daughter.
Yeah, does he not get that zombies are already dead, so punching them, you got to shoot them? Isn't that what you have to do? Isn't that what they do in Walking Dead? Cut their heads off or shoot them?
This podcast does not endorse shooting people dressed as zombies. Are you really? Are you really asking me how they kill people in The Walking Dead?
I don't watch it, so I don't know.
You got to get the zombie's brain. That's how you got to do it.
Okay, because that's the disease part that turned them into the zombie.
I don't know. I guess.
That's why I don't watch Walking Dead. I can't. It's not logical.
Well, yeah.
It's not real.
It's zombies, so according.
So he punches this poor chick.
Punches the 14-year-old. Then a 16-year. So this story is basically just the testimony from each girl. So the 14-year-old girl says, he said, "If you touch my daughter, I'll punch you in the face." He then punched her in the face. The 16-year-old girl told police she watched Hyde shove 2 other girls down the stairs. I guess there were stairs. And then he came and shoved her back down the stairs. Hyde told another 16-year-old girl, "If you, expletive, touch me, I will knock you out," before he grabbed her by the back of the neck and shoved her down the stairs. A 15-year-old girl, 5 girls, he's taking them one by one and just... A 15-year-old girl said Hyde told her, if any of you touch me, I'll expletive you up, and then proceeded to grab her by the back of the neck and push her down the stairs. While the 5th girl, 13, gave a similar story that Hyde walked up to her and told her that if she touched him, he would effing knock her out before he proceeded to punch the girl in the chest.
Oh my God.
He just punches her in the chest. So he
He's
walked
a
up.
zombie. He doesn't know what to do.
He walked up to every individual teenage girl and said, "If you touch me, I will punch you."
And then punch them before they had an opportunity to actually touch him.
It doesn't say in here whether or not they touched him. All female victims were
He
checked
stood there going, "Not touching you. I'm not
They
touching
probably
you.
did.
Not touching you."
And he just knocked him out. All female victims were checked by medical, and no major injuries were noted except bruises.
How could, after they cleared the zombie makeup off their faces?
The suspect was later identified as Drew Hyde. And this is one of my favorite parts of the whole story. Odyssey, because they were working for the Odyssey Theater, these girls. Odyssey founder and artistic director Daryl Yeager said in a prepared statement that he was aware of the incident. Quote, "It is unfortunate, and we are sorry that it occurred." Unquote. He sends 5 girls dressed as zombies. They all get punched in the face. And he goes, "That's unfortunate." Oh, that's too bad. They knew the risks.
That sucks.
They knew the risks. Oh, and that's what we got. That was a long podcast,
wow.
man.
Yeah, zombies.
That was a long one. We got zombies. We got Belgian idiots. We got Shenandoah Valley idiots. We got a lot of stuff going on here. Lots of stuff. Don't forget about election coverage, guys.
Yep.
We really want you to tune in. We're gonna have live coverage, and we're going to be recording the results as they come in, and we're going to be updating you guys as they come along. So if you're in the car on election night and you know you've got a long drive ahead of you, turn us on, catch us, and make sure that you hear what's going on.
And then the next day, we're going to do some recapping on the news at noon and the Valley Today.
Yeah, we're going to do a bunch of that, and during the election coverage. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
And during the election coverage, we're also going to try and play some interview segments for you, too, because we're going to have I've got a tentative interview scheduled with Ben Klein for Monday, and I've got an interview already in the books with Jennifer Lewis. Those are your 6th district candidates, so we'll get some quotes from both of them.
Tim Kaine's coming to town next Wednesday.
Yeah, I heard about that, too. So we
We're
got
going to a good brewery. I'd go say hi to him again like I did when he was in Winchester.
Don't throw shade at the brewery.
I didn't say their name.
Yeah, all right. But anyone can look it up. Anyways.
Thanks, for that. I was trying to be objective.
Okay.
That's as close to objective as I get.
Not telling the brewery name that everyone knows. All right, so that's all we got for today on Another Look. Tune in for election coverage. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have results. We're going to have all of it. If you're in the area, but you have to drive in the car, go ahead and turn us on. If you're not in the area, you can find us on an app anywhere. Turn us on if you're out of town. And